So my name's Paul Boyd, I'm the Chief Information Officer, and we wanted to take you through with the Medway team our journey through transformation, because it's been a bit of a bumpy journey to start with. We think we're on a different track now. We were doing a lot of work to go down to reimagine the council, and then of course LGR hit, which is all about reimagining lots of councils. So it's been kind of tied in nicely to what we're doing across the board. So I've been involved in previous transformation programmes. My background was leisure, so I was running all the council's sports centres, golf courses, and this place at one point. And there was a transformation programme going on within Medway that was looking at a 3-year programme, so again, quite a limited time span, very savings driven, so there was a £7 million savings target to save within that 3-year. I got involved in the last year of that programme when there was lots of savings to be made. A new director had taken over the programme and we had £5 million to save in that final year. And I think it's safe to say for those at Medway that have been here before, the preparation to achieve those savings through, and I'm going to keep using this, proper transformation, because we kept hearing this, wasn't quite there. So a lot of work had been done to prepare the organisation, but the actual delivery of the savings was really difficult to get through transformation, especially in that time window. So it was that time restriction. So we were looking at short-term savings. A lot of the programmes, and certainly in that final year, was very much focused on reorganisation, losing headcount on the basis that there's going to be digital processes either in place or on the way. So we did a lot of work to reduce headcount for that short-term savings. And I do remember having a conversation with my director at the time saying, do we want to do transformation or do we want to make savings? And it really kind of stopped everyone in their tracks to think, actually at the moment, we had to make the savings. And this is now, as we feel as a team, the opportunity to have that longer term view of actually making transformation and rethinking what we do. Don't expect you to see that, but that's just an example of all of the IT systems within Medway Council a couple of years ago. So there were 44 key systems. So any time that we looked at transformation, opportunities to change, all of the conversations with services were, that's great, but it must integrate with this system, and it must integrate with this system. And that's where all the problems started coming in, or even worse, we're bringing a new system that integrated with all those systems. So it went from 30 to 31 because we had this new system that integrated, and then another system that integrated with that pulled the information from it. And we just got spiraled and spiraled, and we were at about 44 systems, and we were really struggling with how we can actually implement real transformation with this constant constraint of systems ICT hanging over our heads all of the time, which led to the eureka moment. So I was on holiday, I was reading a book, Digital Darwinism by Tom Goodwin, and within that book it was talking about the digital revolution, all the things that have happened, and you drawing comparisons with the previous industrial revolutions that we've had. But the key part from reading that book was it talked about First Direct Bank, which was born out of the Midland Bank company. And if those of you that are old enough to remember, it was the first online bank, it was the first telephone bank. But what they did, rather than say Midland Bank are now going online only and closing branches, they just launched a brand new company. So it started afresh. It didn't have this baggage of all the previous systems and what it had to integrate with and what it could do. So that kind of sparked, what if we reimagine Medway Council? What if we could design it from the ground up today with all the new technology, fresh sheet of paper, and just start again? And that's what started sparking some of those ideas of what we could do. And that's where the Medway 2.0 concept was born. And that's what you'll hear today. I suppose the big change was focusing on the residents, looking at the council from the residents' point of view, not the council silos and the departments, how we view it. It's not a new computer system, and this is what I have to explain all of the time internally and to partners. Oh, Medway 2.0, this new system that you're buying. No, we're not buying a new computer system. The starting point of Medway 2.0 is the service design, and it's then finding the right systems to fit our service. But I'll explain a bit more about that in a minute. And then we'll be following the 15 principles of service design, but I won't steal Vicky's thunder. We'll be talking about that a bit later on today. So what we did, we looked at our processes within the council. We identified the high demand processes, mainly using the data for our call centre. So we did have very successful online processes. We've got digital processes that were working really well. So we did look at those as the starting point. And we also, during that process, we noticed that even our good digital processes were still generating a lot of amount of calls into our call centre. So as we were looking at these processes, I think our biggest use one at the time was the household waste recycling process that we put in a booking system. And even during that one, it was still over 2,000 calls because there were amendments to it and cancellations. So we've been able to improve those ones as well. But it was more about the things that were really difficult to do online. So we developed a delivery plan to look at how we can tackle mainly these key processes and try and look at the themes that we have within Medway. If you catch me afterwards, and we're not being filmed, I'll be a bit more honest about this. But to start with, we did look at a Microsoft partner to work with us. So that was the starting point. So we were looking at Medway 2.0, a brand new system. We spoke to lots of partners, lots of third parties that were saying, oh yeah, we've done this before with lots of authorities. We can come in, we can build you a system, you can do it all in there, and it'll be great. We explained, we want to do the service design first. We need to make sure the system does what we want to do. Yeah, no, we've done it. We can do anything you like. We can do anything you like. The demo that we'll see later with the nuisance vehicle process was the first one that we tried with this third-party company. And the back and forth between, yeah, this is how we want it to work. And they'd come back, yeah, no, we've done that. And it was completely different. Not just a little bit different, completely different. Because it was designed by IT people. They were obsessed with, well, you must capture this at this point because it's really important. Not to the resident, it's not. And I think that's the bit that Vicky will emphasise. So we did look to work with one, thought it would be the answer to get us delivering at pace because obviously the previous transformation programme had finished. We needed to come on to the new one. We thought this would be the quick wins, let's get the experts in and let's do it. But it certainly wasn't. But grab me after if you want the full lowdown of what happened there. And they couldn't. So we did it ourselves. And this, I think, was the big change for us. We wanted to do it in-house. We wanted to bring in expertise if we needed it. But what we didn't want to do is work with a partner that's going to oversee the whole process. We brought it all in-house. By doing that, of all those 44 systems, we identified 2 key technologies that we wanted to commit to as our first thing as the Medway 2.0 journey. We wanted to lay a marker down where possible. We want to use Jadu for our customer-facing activities, and we want to use the Microsoft technologies that we were already paying for our internal processes. And then, of course, where we can link those up, there's grey areas. There's some areas where we're having to use other things. But by setting that down to the teams, it provided that clarity to say, where possible, that's what we're using. And that allowed us to rationalise our systems. It allowed us to get consistency with our systems. I think at one point, we had 5 or 6 e-form packages that residents could use. Every system we bought had an e-form package that residents could use. And we'd get all these complaints about a system. And first of all, we had to find out what the e-form was, what system it was. It wasn't consistent with the other lovely e-form I used the other day. And it was trying to get that consistency with the service design. So I'm going to give a real whistle-stop tour now of those 41 candidate processes. We chopped up, we grouped together, we developed some work streams, and just wanted to give you a flavour of the kind of things we're working on. Again, during this, if there's anything anyone wants to particularly talk about, just stick your hand up or shout out now, or grab any of the team afterwards. But these are the kind of areas that Medway are working on as part of this 2.0 programme. So housing, is that showing right? Yeah. So housing was one of our key priorities. As being a unitary authority, we look after that. So we were looking to redesign their processes. A lot of these work streams and projects interweave and interlink, which you'll see some as we go through. But housing and homelessness support was one of the key things that we were looking at to redesign the service with the service. So the service knew what they wanted to do. We've had a number of workshops doing the service design with the service, and Vicky will be taking you through some of that later on today. Our external processes, so we looked at our report it processes. We tried as part of the Medway 2.0 programme to come up with service patterns to try and just do a single report it journey for residents, a single book it process for residents, a single pay for it processes. So that's what we're trying to do, and you'll see our first report it one later on today. Another focus was our internal processes. As that skips ahead. Yeah. So our internal processes, so we're looking at adult social care. They wanted to use a tool for using AI for their case notes, and that was something we could build in-house with the Power Platform and some of those Microsoft technologies. However, they had engaged with a partner that was using a similar technology. We had other work streams, so working with that service, we did work with an individual provider to help out with that specific project. And that was delivered really quickly. The services are really happy with it. And of course, that's something we can always revisit in the future to see what they're doing and then maybe redesign something as a corporate solution that we can use across the council. But the Magic Notes AI for adult social care note-taking has been really successful, was implemented really quickly, and they've gone through a pilot phase, and that's now moving into business as usual for them. So that's been a particularly good project with that. With HR advice, we've looked at, when we did the presentation, Power Virtual Agents. I think we're now AI assistants, and we're looking at using chatbots, but only the new Microsoft AI chatbots. We've resisted using the old type of chatbots on our websites in the past and for staff, those that rely on predicting a question, writing an answer, predicting another question, writing an answer, predicting a question, writing an answer. We've resisted those because they're infuriating if you've used them on other websites, and certainly internally. The advent of the new AI chatbots, I don't know if anyone's had an experience of those yet, but we've used the Microsoft technologies. I'm going to make it sound really simple, sorry David, but to make it sound really simple, we've basically got our data in the right place, all our HR policies, all the procedures that the staff use, all the information that's on the intranet, put that all in one location, and then just pointed the AI at that information, and in natural language you can ask it a question, and in natural language it returns an answer. And in all the testing so far, it's been really, really good, and there's always the opportunity to escalate to a specialist in HR if you need to. And then alongside that, and we launched it yesterday, was a wellness AI system, and that's something that we launched during Mental Health Week for Medway Council, and it's a chatbot that provides wellness advice that uses some of the same information as the HR stuff, but what's been really impressive with the HR, with the AI chatbot, is asking the same question of both chatbots. You do get that slightly nuanced, one focused on the wellness side, one more focused on the HR procedural side. So those chatbots have been particularly impressive, and it's something quick to demonstrate to get buy-in, because everyone wants AI and everything at the moment, so it was a good chance to try it with something useful, and it was nice that it was something that supported staff directly as well. Another app, so Speech Scribe is on that list, and that's an internally developed app that we're using for meetings, summarising meetings, transcribing, and could easily be adapted in the future to do the case notes for adult social care, children's social care, and then roll it out for meeting minutes and everything else within the council. And then just to touch on that last one, an audit management system. So one of the draws of using the Power Platform and developing in-house was the ability to collaborate with other local authorities. And there was a local authority in the southwest that had developed an audit management system in the Power Platform. And that wasn't an IT person, that was their audit person that was really into the Power Platform and had become a citizens developer using the low code and had built an audit system. and very graciously just gave it to us. So they gave us the system. Initially, our team looked at it, this is amazing, it's great, but it didn't fit with how they wanted to work. And rather than fall into the trap of being the internal third-party supplier that tries to make the service change their processes to fit what we've provided with them, the ICT team sat down with them and are redesigning it from scratch to match their processes. But we've got some really good insight because we could see what the other authority did. We could amend it and then we can share it back. And then if anyone else is using the platform, we can start doing that sharing of some of these internally developed apps. Because we're sick of these 3 or 4, there seems to be, suppliers to local authorities that charge an absolute fortune. And we either only use a tiny part of what we've bought from them, or it doesn't quite do what we want it to do, and we have all these workarounds. So we want to start for a fresh sheet of paper where we can. Coming on to frontline services, so we look after the highways in Medway. Potholes is quite a hot topic at the moment, so there's a system that we're putting cameras on our vehicles that travel around Medway. We did a pilot a couple of years ago. It scans the potholes, so not only does it tell us where they are, which the residents are quite good at doing that, but it also tells us how deep they are, whether they've changed over time. It's all automated. It gives us the dashboards. It gives us that intelligence to allow us to prioritise the repairs and make bigger repairs rather than just patching. We're doing sections of highways when we've got the data that tells us this is the one that needs to be doing. So that's gone down really well, and that's in process. And then coming full circle, one of the first transformation projects that we worked on was virtual parking permits. But back, 5 years ago, I think probably longer than 5 years ago, that was ready to go. But our councillors, our stakeholders weren't quite ready to lose that bit of paper in the windscreen to allow residents to check. Obviously, over that time, things have moved on, so I think there's a better opportunity now to look at digital solutions where there's more smartphones to check, and we can introduce some of that. And then lastly, but certainly not least, our biggest issue across the council is data and managing our data. We're very data rich. We've got data in all of those 44 different systems. What we're not very good at is pulling that information together and getting actually intelligence out of that data. So we are looking at investing in a new modern data platform for the organisation. I will call him out. David, if you can give a wave if you want to know any more detail about that. David's leading on that project, but it's a really exciting opportunity because one of the visions that we set for Medway 2.0 right at the beginning is that we want to have a single view of the resident. So if someone calls up for something, we want to know that they've also called us about parking tickets, or if they're owing us money, we can look at everything, but we can also look at what benefits and welfare we can provide to support them, not just to pay the fines, but to support them, but also to provide a single view of the council to the residents. So this single view keeps cropping up over and over again within our Medway 2.0 programme, and the modern data platform we see as being the first step to achieving that. One of our priority projects is single view of a child, and that's pulling together our internal information about families, but then also the potential to work with partners to pull in information from the police, to pull in information from healthcare. With the right governance, and we know some information can and can't be shared, but it's just that all of the high-profile cases we hear about, it always seems to be about one department didn't know something that another department knew. So it's trying to solve that issue that we have. And then lastly is our migration to SharePoint. So we're having a real difficulty in a change of mindset, and I'm guilty of this as well. We're still seeing files as electronic bits of paper. We're still seeing those files being put into electronic versions of folders that are then put in electronic versions of filing cabinets. And what we're trying to do is to change that mindset a bit, use the technology and use the opportunities in SharePoint. So rather than having the same thing shared in different places, we can share everything in one place, have everybody working from the same version, and improve our decision making and availability of data from doing that. But the irony is sort of not lost on us that we're doing all this transformation. We're doing a lot of work with Power BI, a lot of work with SharePoint, And then when it comes to doing committee reports, we're still having to put that all into an electronic version of a bit of paper so it can go to a committee report. So we're trying to change those mindsets within the council to take advantage of this digital stuff, because it's got so much opportunity and it is changing our ways of working. And Medway 2.0 has been established. It isn't just a transformation program. It is about reimagining what we do. Thank you.